Hey folks, welcome back to Kingdom Dungeon and Hero. I just want to take a quick look at the combat mechanics. I think it's going to be interesting for me to read this, and if you're not really interested in this stuff, then you can skip forwards, I guess. But I'm going to read this out. I think it's interesting. So I'm going to talk about the land combat. I think one of the things about Kingdom Dungeon and Hero is there's this kind of because all the mechanics are in mostly like talked about in the manual for the most part. It can be a little bit confusing as to what's going on when you see combat happening, and especially with the ground combat, land combat. So I thought I'd read this out, and it will kind of give you a little bit of context as to what's going on, and it will refresh my memory too, because I'd forgotten most of this stuff. I'll be honest with you. Providing you are using, one of the things I love about this game is that the game is designed so that you don't really need to min-max it, and what I mean by that is, it's kind of hard to min-max this game, at least in terms of the ground combat, because the dice rolls are it's quite simple the way that it's worked out, but there's a lot of depth with regards to the terrain advantages and things like that. Okay, so it's all about unit composition and positioning of forces when it comes to battles, and there's a little bit of luck, that is thrown in there too, because obviously it's not a deterministic combat system, thank God, so it's actually got some luck in there as well. But I think when you're watching the combat, sometimes it can be a bit like, okay, what's going on? I don't really understand what's happening here, and I think that sometimes too. So I'm going to just read the combat rules, and then you can actually see. Now, like I said, it's kind of designed, I think, so that it's difficult to really min-max the game, and I'm pretty sure that that's I know that's the way that the game's been designed. Now, that doesn't mean it's anti-min-maxer. That's not what I mean. I mean that it's like, it's not easy, I don't think, to just get the optimal solution to the battles, and I think it's going to be one of those games where it's not going to be ruined because somebody makes a Steam guide. Do you know what I mean? Okay, so anyway, land combat takes place each turn using movement points. A unit may keep attacking as long as it has movement points. Attacking enemy units costs movement points based on the number of units in the enemy counter and their fortification level. So, if a land counter does not have enough movement points to make an attack, all the movement points are used. Land units with 0 movements may not attack. Okay, so that's interesting for a start. Attacking enemy units cost movement points based on the number of units in the enemy counter and their fortification level. So this is one of the reasons why at the start of the game, if you're attacking, like I did with Mars House, right? If you're attacking a stack that sat on a fortification level 5 like I was, you don't get to attack much. Okay. And units that have got higher movement make more attacks. Okay, land combat is fought in 3 stages: range, melee, and pursuit. In the range stage, only range values are used. In the melee stage, only melee values are used. In the pursuit stage, pursuit factors are used to inflict more damage on the losing side. Some units fight in all 3 combat stages. Pursuit factors are halved when attacking across a river. Well, that makes sense, because it means those cavalry can't really get across the river fast enough to be able to chase people down. Okay. Cost to attack is the fortification level plus 1 movement point for every defender unit. Okay, so the larger the enemy unit you're attacking, the higher the cost to attack. So it makes sense to keep your units together. Okay, in the biggest stacks that you can, at least if you're defending. Each counter of units has a default commander with a rating of 6 plus a random roll between 1 and 6. Okay, so that means that the default commander's got a rating of 6. Okay, and you've seen this in the game. If there's a hero as a commander, it uses their leader rating plus the random d6 and any traits the hero has. So yeah, obviously if you've got a leader with lower rating than 6, you don't want to use it as a leader. Now, the leader rating is the intelligence plus their cleverness. A leader with tactician trait adds 20% to the rating. A hero with the warrior trait adds +1. Then we got luck. Luck is a modifier added to the battle based on chance. Positive values favour the attacker and negative values favour the defender. Morale and cavalry advantage modifiers are added to the luck roll. Okay, so and we'll go on to describe how these work. Okay, but yeah, so there is a luck element as well. The difference in the attack and defender morale is added to the luck roll. Okay, so if you've got better morale than your enemy, then you're more likely to get a lucky roll. Morale is modified by the hero trait commander and the research fields in formations. Each full point difference in morale between the 2 armies adds a 10% bonus to the luck roll. Morale level also determines if a group of units retreats. Each gold star on the land or naval counter represents 1 level of morale. If the attacker or defender takes more damage than their morale level, times 10% of their strength. Okay, let me just get this head, understand this. If the attacker or defender takes more damage than their morale level, times 10% of their strength, they retreat or surrender if surrounded. Yeah, so they retreat, but if they're surrounded, they'll surrender. Some units have fearless morale. These units never retreat and must be destroyed. So one example of that will be golems that you get in the game. The lesser and greater golems have fearless trait. Cavalry advantage. So this is the one that's added to the look. The side with a 2-to-1 advantage in cavalry gains a 15% morale bonus. Okay. Fortifications. Each fortification level adds 10% to morale, and each level adds plus 7% to a 7% chance to reduce a hit to 0 damage for the defender. Alright, so this means that fortifications will defend your troops when they're being attacked, and they get a high morale, so they're much less likely to run. That's why you don't really see them running from cities until they're very, very outnumbered, essentially, and usually when their fortification's gone. Starvation is the supply level of a unit. It impacts its ability to fight, lowering the chance of damage on the enemy. Okay, so this is one reason why if you're fighting when you've got no supply, your troops are technically starving, even if they don't lose, if they make their foraging roll, I think they're still starving. I think. Now I'm not 100% sure there. I need to check those rules, but I've certainly noticed that if you attack people, let's go back into the game quickly. If you attack a unit here like this one, like this one here, this army is out of supply. Now we can't see its supply unit. We can't see its supply levels. I don't think we don't get to see that. Excuse me, but so this unit will fight at a lower strength now, which means even though they've got 5 units in here, right, and we've only got 3, we've got a fair advantage against this unit here because they are going to have that penalty. Okay, let me just jump back into here. So So yeah, we've done starvation. Battle types. Field combat, siege, and sortie are 3 types of battle that can be fought, depending on the combat type. So, field combat is just in the open, as normal. So the defender uses terrain, yes. The damage modifier for the attacking defender is the same. It's just ×1. Retreat, yes. Pursuit, yeah, yes. The low luck level is -15, and the high luck level is +15. Okay, so this is the most you can get on the field. Surrounded is entirely the same, but there's no retreat hex, and they can't retreat, nor is there any pursuit, and the same luck levels. With the siege, which means that the defender is at the location, sortie is when it's the attackers in the in the fortification. So when the defender's in the fortification, the damage modifier that the attacker gets is 2/3. Okay, so you only get 2/3 of your damage, whereas the defender does 1.5 times the damage. So it's obviously very, very advantageous to be defending a city. Okay, now you can retreat, but there's no pursuit. Okay, and there's lower luck. There is lower luck and a lower low luck and a higher high luck is what I'm trying to say. Okay, and the same with the sortie. It's pretty much the same, except also we got surrounded here. This is surrounded in a siege, of course. But it's basically the same. Then we've got sortie, which is when you're in a village and you're in a town and you're attacking out of that village. Everybody's attacking at 50% damage. Okay, so this is the damage modifier. You can retreat, but there's no pursuit, and then there's much higher and lower luck values. Okay, so this means it's a lot more randomized as to who's going to win. And then naval, it's got its own rules here too as well. So it's the 1/1 damage modifier. You can retreat, although it says defending ships in a port at a location under siege will be automatically destroyed if blockading and the attacker takes that location. Okay, I had this in a game that I was playing before. All right, then we got a little bit about the formulas of how it works. I'm just going to go through this very, very quickly. Okay, so here's some modifiers for the commander. So if the commander difference is +2 and double or more, attacker +2 and double or more, then the attacker gets +2 to the battle modifier, defender gets -1. Okay, and then that goes down. All right. Each unit uses the attribute appropriate to the combat stage to attack the enemy. Each strength points of the unit rolls to see if it inflicts damage. Damage is total and distributed to the enemy. Each enemy has a chance to defend against the damage and block it. Below is a simplified formula behind combat damage. This is what I mean, right? The games, it does obscure some stuff. This is deliberate to prevent excessive min-maxing, basically. My understanding, like the developer has told me that, but my understanding of this from knowing other game systems where the same systems are in place, I think what developers like to do here, if they don't want people just to lay bare their algorithms so that they can excessively min-max it, is the reason is so that you are relying more in a realistic way. So, you know, rather than going, okay, I know if I stand on this hill with this precise unit, then I'm going to get, you know, an extra 0.1% to this specific dice roll. That's what I would call excessive min-maxing, okay? The best games don't really do that, and the reason being is because it just becomes boring. The moment people start doing that, I mean, some people love doing that, by the way. And if you're that kind of gamer, I'm not trying to attack you. That's great. You should enjoy your games how you like. But there is some evidence to suggest that a lot of people, when they start getting to that level of understanding, they kind of tune out. Okay, and one of the good things about about having the formulas simplified and not showing you all of the things that's going on under the hood is because it although, you know, it allows you to learn the game, okay, so that you know what's going on mostly. It still means that you're kind of looking at the game like a commander would in real life. Like, you know, like, are we standing on a hill? Do I have more units than him? Are my units of a high morale, you know, higher morale than my enemy? That kind of stuff, okay? That enables you to make the decision. That's all really the information that you should need. All you need to know is what conditions go into making this. Not if I've got a wolf, you know, a particular unit type with another particular unit type, then I get an extra 0.2, which will tip the modifier further in my favor. You know what I mean? That's just not fun, in my opinion, anyway. Once spreadsheets have to come out in games, I kind of tune out. Not always. Sometimes I like that stuff, but for the most part, I don't care. Anyway, back to this. So, land damage formula. So it's a random number between 0 and 75 plus the starvation level. Okay, so hang on a minute. Yeah, so we're going to have to think about order of operations here. Here's the formula anyway. I can't be bothered to read this, but you can read this, okay? But this is basically just a summation of this, you know, of what's going on here. That's the damage formula. Then we've got the defense formula here. And then we've got the land pursuit formula. And these are different, you know, these will happen at different levels. So I'll let you guys read that if you want to read that. Commander death. At the end of the battle, each side may lose a commander if that land counter is led by a hero. There's a check if the leader is put in danger. If the check succeeds, a second check happens to see if the hero escapes. If that check fails, the hero leader dies. If an army is destroyed and the leader escapes, they will appear at the capital when in spaces available as a party. Then here's the death chances. So if the enemy's got an assassin, you know, then there's a higher chance for this to happen. And this is the escape check modifiers. Okay. So where are we? Combat selector. Yeah, okay, so this is telling you the combat selector modifier. So you've got the combat type here. It tells you the cross swords or the siege or whatever it is. You've got the range weapon cover from weather. So this is going to affect the range part of the battle. The battle. You've got the cavalry advantage is this number at the front on the left here, and the fortification value is the value on the right. Okay, so that's good. That will give you some more indications on how this is going to work. And then you've got foraging and starving. Okay, so right, foraging means you've got the little deer, and starving means you've got the rib cage. Oh, can we see that on these guys then? No, I don't think we can. No, we can't see that there. Okay, that's no problem. All right, so I hope that's kind of helpful. I didn't go through the land damage formulas and the modifiers partly because I'm being lazy and I've completely forgotten my mathematics order of operations. BODMAS, isn't it? But anyway, yeah. So starvation level unit random 0 to 75 plus the starvation level is less than the combat value times the modifiers, and then the modifiers has all these in here is equal to 1 point of damage. Okay. And then land defense formula, the modifiers, or random number between 1 and 10. Okay, so there's quite a lot in this, and it looks like for the land defense formula, for example, it switches it up. It says, I don't know if that's a logical OR operator here, or it's saying that it will sometimes do this and sometimes do this. I think more likely it's going to be the logical OR operator. And then land pursuit formula. Wise with morale and cover. Okay, so really this is just kind of like encapsulating what this has told you in these rules here. So anyway, I'm going to get back into the game, folks. I'm just going to switch my mode from display mode to game mode again. There we are. All right, let's get back into the game. I thought that would be interesting to look at anyway, because it was important for me to kind of like check the game, to check those modifiers out again, or those rules. So yeah, big takeaways from this is there are 3 different phases. So you've got ranged, you've got pursuit at the end, and then you've got the melee phase. I'm assuming that you're doing a land-based combat. Different units are better at different types. So you've got the melee, pursuit. You've got armor, which affects their damage. If we just go back to that formula just again. Oh yeah, you won't be able to see this now. Back out again. Okay. So yeah, look, where are we? So the land defense formula. Oh no, the damage formula. Here we are. Look. Look, morale, cavalry, terrain, weather, and cover equals 1 damage. Okay. Oh, there we are. Land defense formula. So the armor value is actually whether you get hit or not. So that's to block the damage. So this is the armor value. So it makes a roll against 20, and the roll has to be less than the armor value. But the armor value is then times by these modifiers, which is luck, morale, cavalry. So actually the amount of cavalry you have actually determines how much damage you block, which is kind of interesting, right? Then you've got the terrain, the weather, and then cover as well. Okay, so basically terrain and cover, weather, morale, luck, and cavalry. All of these things are really important. So you really want cavalry in your armies. So that's something I don't always put cavalry in my armies, and it looks like I'm making a big mistake there. So really what we want to be doing, if you want to be defending against damage at least. Also looks like the cavalry also determines whether you do damage or not as well. Because cavalry is in there too. All right, and obviously the land pursuit formula is important as well, because cavalry are usually the ones that are doing the pursuit. All right, so I think anyway. Although, and looks like these guys have pursuit too. Yeah, so one pursuit for armor and swordsman each. But you'll see that heavy cavalry of 3. These wolf cavalry are gonna, they've got 3 as well. So cavalry are particularly good at pursuit, so chasing down units. So there is a lot to the combat. This is what I mean. This is when Al says that it's like a medium complexity game, but with high depth. He's quite right. The actual combat mechanics, as you've seen, are relatively simple. Certainly compared to something like Shadow Empire, which people compare this game to Shadow Empire, and it's nothing like it, to be honest. It looks superficially like it because they're both hex games, but other than that, they're pretty different. And one's a 4X, this one's a grand strategy. They're completely different. But so one of the differences is that there's a whole lot less simulated, okay, in the combat mechanics, but that kind of makes this game a lot easier to play. It doesn't necessarily make it easier to win, and it certainly doesn't necessarily make it easier to to get good at, I guess. Like, I think there's a lot of depth in this, and it's going to be a matter of figuring out what the enemy composition is and figuring out what your composition is, depending on who you're going up against. It's going to be less of a thing if you're very good at these games, on the kind of like positional level, and you're playing against an AI that's obviously not got human intuition. Okay, so in that case, I think that the combat in that case, if you're going to be fighting against the AI on a hard difficulty setting where you've got a lot of they're able to field more units against you, for example, then I think that you're really then going to have to start getting very carefully into, you can't just blob units together, kind of like what I've done here. You need to start thinking about it a little bit more. Okay. All right, guys. I think what I might do is, I might make this a separate episode, actually. So I think I'll end it here, and then we'll look at the game next. Just so that for those of you who don't really want to watch an episode based on combat mechanics, you can just watch that. All right. Thanks, guys. Take care.